Listen.
Welcome to Div Tech 101. As I discuss information technology, also known as IT. And in today's video, people, we are going to go over a very interesting topic. And this actually dropped the other night or the day, but I just came up on it and I want to definitely share it with you all. We're going to be talking about Mississippi's new age verification law and what it means for social media and free speech. This topic is very important to me because I have always been an advocate for protecting young children online, and definitely something we should definitely consider for young adults because we are living in a world where people are more engaged than anything right now. But this groundbreaking law is requiring social media platforms that we know of to verify users' age, to also get their parents' consent before they can even use the platform and before they can even sign up. That should be a good thing, right? Now, according to the articles, the news has been out about it. The U.S. Supreme Court has momentarily allowed this law to take effect, even though legal battles continue, because people are going to give pushback. But in this video today, I want to definitely explain how the law works, why tech companies are pushing back, and what it means for free speech, privacy, and the future of online regulation. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So imagine that you have young children at home. You're in the kitchen, maybe cooking something, or the dad's outside cutting the yard, just something. Just think about the family just existing in the home. And imagine that you have a young child, a minor. We're going to say a minor, trying to sign up for a social media account that you may not even be aware of. How convenient would it be for you to be able to not allow them to do that unless it is under your consent? Well, then hitting that age check barrier, soon the minors in Mississippi, may not be allowed on social media without their parents' approval and consent. Now, on the opposite side, the tech giants that we know of, and you can talk about as far as Google, X, Instagram, and all these other social media platforms out there. And there's some I've never even heard of yet because I'm not on social media. But the tech giants are saying it's violating free speech. And so let's go ahead and break it down. So when we look at this particular bill, I'm going to pull the bill up on the screen because it is most definitely fair that you all be able to see that and that you can at least as well know what we're getting into today on the channel. So the bill that we're going to be looking at here is this is the Walker Montgomery Protecting Child Online Act, HB 1126. You can look this up online. You can look this up on their website. You can most definitely see this. You can look at the bill itself. You can see what it's about. Let me zoom in here so you can see it. House Bill 1126. This was signed into law according to the article on April the 30th of 2024. So laws, of course, take sometimes years in order to come into effect. You can see it was done by the governor, Tate Reeves. And you can see by looking at this particular document, this has just a few pages here, but you can definitely go through it and read it. I'm not going to read everything in here, but we will just at least look at the top. But the key provisions that are in here is saying that platforms must use commercially reasonable efforts to verify age. It doesn't say that they have to, it's saying that they must use. But according to what was actually in the bill itself, it is saying that to require digital services to register their age, to limit the collection of use of minors, users' personal identifying information, PII, to require digital service providers to implement, to require digital service providers to implement safety strategies to prevent minors users exposure to harmful material, to amend section 75-24-5 Mississippi Code 1972 to provide that a violation of this act is an unfair and deceptive trade practice, which that's talked a lot about. If you look at some of the CIPP videos I've done in terms of data privacy, that is in there as well. Now, that is enforceable by the Office of the Attorney General to amend Section 97-51-31 Mississippi Code 1972 to include morphed images of depicting minor children in explicit nature in the crime of child exploitation and for related purposes. And that goes into different sections from sections 1 to sections 9. And you will see as well in section 9, there is some heavy information in there as well. So you definitely need to check this out, people. All right. Definitely go through this. I'm sure, like Mississippi, of course, if any of you are familiar with Memphis, Tennessee area, you know, you got South Haven, of course, right there, just right across the border. Wouldn't be surprised at all when this hits Tennessee and Arkansas, because some states are pushing back as well. Now, the parental consent is required for those under the age of 18. So the children that you have seen around in the stores walking on their phones, walking around, not on their phones, but walking around with their phones, kids are exposed to so much items and things and web pages and social media accounts that they're basically glued to their mobile devices. And I've talked so much about that on the channel in protecting kids, especially when I did an episode with Roblox and how that woman, bad actor, talked that kid into dropping his sibling. And I believe he also tried to catch the house on fire or something like that. But you can definitely take a look at the video. But even with video games, those are still social networks because you are socially networking with other people by talking to them through headsets, communicating with them through chat. That is still social media. It's not just locked to the ones that we know of. Okay. So definitely keep that in mind. But this right here, I'm actually glad that they have a consent on this because a lot of these children, every last one of them, should be having parents monitor what they're doing on their devices. And I've been talking about that for a long time. And I'm glad that this is actually happening. Where it's going to split off into being different problems with different people is the tech giants, of course, are going to have an issue with it because that impacts their daily average user account. Daily average user account means, are they caring more about the daily active user and users on their website and trying to get more people connected? Do they care more about that than the safety of minors? And we're talking about people under the age of 18. Under the age of 18. Now, this is supposed to limit collection as well of minors according to their geolocation, because you know their cell phones are actually triangulating and pinpointing to different radio towers that may be around them. So, are they sharing too much information through the pictures that they take, the consistent uploads to social media sites, just sharing with their friends, hey, look where I'm at, we're at the beach or we're at a theme park? Should they be sharing the information? Because think about the pictures that you share has information in it where people can look at the picture and look at what's going on in the background. Also, to restrict harmful ads. If you had children as well that are watching, for example, like Netflix or Hulu or something like that, or even watching YouTube. YouTube is also a social media site. Even just seeing kids watching content like that, you also have to understand that you can't control the ads based on it unless you actually purchase the paid version of YouTube TV, for example, YouTube Plus. But these restrict targeted ads and moderate exposure to self harm, substance abuse, trafficking content, and etc. And all this can be looked up online. Now, looking at the legal timeline, as you know, laws get past because things happen. People don't necessarily pay attention. There is no conspiracy within this. This is all in your face. I'm looking at the technical aspect is young kids don't need to be so ingrained in technology that they cannot understand what is going on in society. Okay. That's what we need to be looking into. But with this particular bill, the legal timeline is you have June the 7th, apparently, of 2024. The tech trade group NetChoice sues, arguing the law infringes on First Amendment and privacy rights. So, what privacy do minors have, apparently, with their particular technology and First Amendment rights? Think about that. What about July the 1st, 2024? Apparently, district court issues a preliminary injunction blocking enforcement of the law. And that was down in Mississippi, from what it looks like. Or what about April the 17th of 2025? Fifth Circuit vacates the injunction, allowing the law to go into effect. Then you got July the 20, actually July 2025, the appeals court decision solidifies this enforcement. So they're getting the ball rolling. They're figuring it out. And then jumping over to August the 14th, which is starting to hit headlines, U.S. Supreme Court allows the law to remain in effect while the lawsuits continue, denying NetChoice emergency requests to block it. So be able to see what is going on with the children. What options do they have? Why? And if you're not familiar with NetChoice, you can definitely look at their site. But NetChoice is a trade association of online businesses that advocate for free expression, free enterprise on the internet. It currently has 6 active First Amendment lawsuits over state level internet regulations, including NetChoice versus Paxton, Moody versus NetChoice, NetChoice versus Bonto, and NetChoice versus Yoast. Now, NetChoice itself, you can go onto their site. You can actually see it. Let me go ahead and pull it up so that you can just be informed about it. But you can go onto their site. You can actually see, what it's about and everything. You can look at when it was started, like in 2001. That's around that time, a little bit around between 2001 to 2004. You can see within that 4-year mark, that's about the time you have a lot of the social media giants coming around. And looking at the social media giants, the timeline of that, let's see here. Timeline of the ones that we're looking to look at is looking at, I mean, some of you probably never heard of 6 Degrees, but that launched in 1993. But around 2004, so Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr, hashtag, Pinterest, Foursquare, but notably Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, those 3 have been around before 2006. So this rings around the time that NetChoice is around here. Now, of course, you can go to their site, you can look at it, you can see the work that they're doing, you can see everything about their mission, you can see their team and everything. You can see all that information there. You can look at the site, you can see their association members as well. Now, association members, keep in mind, you do have some social media sites, of course, on here as well. So you can actually see all of that. Meta, as we used to know as Facebook, but of course now known as Meta. But You get the drift. You see that they are actually fighting that. So the law is basically going to stay into effect until it otherwise is determined. Now, what that law overall is going to require for the people and what that is going to do is this: that law is going to it's going to make sure that there are age verification and parental controls that are around that. Of course, we already know that before minors can create social media accounts. That needs to happen anyway because parents need to know what their kids are logging on to, especially in this technologically driven, connected world that's here. And that's not even talked about when they start getting into like that AI um, glasses, like your Ray Bans and all that stuff like that. We haven't even gotten into that conversation yet, but that'll come at a better time. But platforms must limit data collection to prevent marketers and advertisers from basically collecting information on the kids, for example, their personal data, geolocation data on minors and stuff. Because think about kids and parent in the car, and the kid is on social media, and the parent is in the car, and their phones are consistently pinging cell towers and stuff like that. You can only imagine the connection of the shared data of how it's sharing the information consistently, knowing that the kids are there. So how are they going to block that out? That is the bigger question: to restrict targeted advertisers from targeting harmful information to the minors. And this also can prevent hopefully can prevent exposure to self-harm, kids getting upset because they cannot have the same thing that their peers may have as they're showing flashy things on social media. Kids are getting mad and having self-harm and substance abuse based off of that. Also, um, trafficking, sexual exploitation, bullying, cyberbullying is a big thing. I did a study on that, and that is that's actually a real thing. Kids are actually having problems with that, but apparently the violation of this particular new law, if it happens, they send us up to $10,000. 10,000 per violation, possible imprisonment with more severe consequences for repeat offenses. And you can definitely look in the document. The document's going to have all the information that you need in order to fully and thoroughly understand. I didn't want to pull up the news, didn't want to pull up a news clip talking about it. I wanted you to actually see the actual document with this. Now, looking at the supporters versus the opponents in this, supporters are going to tout, of course, the protection against sextortion, grooming, addiction, and self harm. That is what's going to happen. Opponents of this, particularly net choice tech companies, they're going to want to warn of infringement on minors and adults. So they're going to group them together. Free speech rights, privacy, and access to education and political content. Now, what does a minor need to be looking at political content for? What does a minor need to need to look at in terms of the educational content? Because sometimes the educational content and the political content is laced, of course, with the other things that the supporters are trying to prevent the kids from getting access to, or they don't want them to have access of. But I want you all to definitely look at this because this is a very, very big thing. As I told you on the channel, you can look at my other videos. You can see where I specifically talked about different new things that happen in the news of kids getting taken advantage of on these gaming platforms because they're underage, they're on here, the parents not watching them, they're just out there. We need to be taking a look at this. What this means for the people that's looking at this, here's the thing. The federal courts are going to face growing clashes as time moves on over digital age restriction and minors' rights. For example, we have restrictions on minors going into casinos, for example, because of the gambling addiction that can possibly happen. But when it comes to social media, there is a specific aspect of this that kids should not be seeing and getting into. When you're looking at social media alone by itself, and I was looking at a data report for this, and just to put it into perspective, you have over 5.41 billion people who are the number of social media identities that exists out there. And then when you look at it on the basis of a quarter um, change on quarter across their identities, that's adding another 1.8% or 95 million social media users that's there. And it changes, that goes up about 4.7% each year, which is increasing the time that people spend on social media, which is about the weekly time spent on social media by users is on an average of 18 hours and 46 minutes. You want to round it up to a beautiful number, round it up to 20. That's almost more than three-fourths of a day, people. And an average number of social media platforms used each month for each of those users is about 6.84. See, these numbers starting to mean something. You want to get into social media user identities? It's going up. It's about 65.7%. And social media users who are identified age of 18 plus, it's like 88.9%, because now, of course, you do have minors periodically who would mark that they're over the age of 18, because most people are probably not marking their actual birthday on there. But the social media users' identities versus individuals using the internet is about 95.7%. These numbers are pretty large. Now, when you look at the difference between male and female social media users, female social media users' identities and total social media users' identities is about 45.4%, as to the male social media users' identities versus total social media user identities is 54.6. And the most highly rated one, I want y'all to take a guess. What do you think that is? It's going to be Facebook. Look at this here. I want you to I want you all to really put this into perspective. Look at this. Self-declared platform use. Percentage of internet users age 16 plus who say they've used the respective platform at least once within the past month. Facebook is number one, 56.6%, followed by YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, TikTok, Telegram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and some of these other ones down at the bottom you may not have heard of, but at least at the top, that is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. We have to be we have to pay attention to what the kids are getting into. Now, Texas recently passed a similar age gating law for adult content, but not social media, that is being upheld by SCOTUS. Now, that will raise a broader question, I think. That broader question is, where should society balance child protection and civil liberties in the digital realm? And how would that impact the DAU, or the daily average user, um, marks that they have? Think about it. Now, for the parents out there, you definitely got to just expect some tighter control over your child's social media use. Maybe it's good for them so they can actually buckle down and look at the books and not be using so much technology, because it is changing kids and changing people. And it's definitely influenced. Technology is highly influential. I'm in the tech space and have been for years. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to live in the world before tech became mainstream and actually understand what it's like to be outside and live and not be tied to your mobile device. But that but also the key question about privacy and tracking. Do you want your kids to be tracked and not have an age limit and use social media? Do you not want them? Do you want them to put on a age verification and they don't have their private and information being tracked? For the teenagers and users out there, if you're a teenager, I understand why you can be upset about this. Account creations may become more complicated and potential limitations is going to exist for expressing views and accessing information. Now, for the platforms out there, the technical and legal hurdles that's going to continue to increase, and that can as well reshape onboarding and moderation process for this. And for the people that's in the law space out there who are the professionals, the legal observers, whether you're a judge, lawyer, whatever, this this could become a landmark case on minors. They say First Amendment rights in the digital age, but you know, this is going to be a very interesting turn. Now, what I want you to think about as you're going through this, and I want to be sure that we are all on the same page respectfully, is Mississippi's law is more than a state policy. It is a preview of how we may protect and should protect children's online while wrestling with free speech and privacy. And this legal fight right here is far from over. We have the rest of the US to go. Will this become a global thing? It's already on the state level. Will this become national? Will this become global? So I want to leave you with two questions. Number one, do you think parental consent laws respect or violate teens' rights? I want you to answer that in the comments below. And the second question is, should age verification be mandatory for minors online? Those are the two questions. So once again, do you think that parental consent laws respect or violate teens' rights? And the second question is, should age verification be mandatory for minors online? Please drop a comment below. I would definitely like to hear your thoughts on this as well. Most definitely, let's keep it respectful. Let's get into this. And once again, people, as usual and as always, look forward to bringing much more of this content to you all soon. Stay sharp, stay secure, subscribe for more tech with purpose only on DivTech 101.